Hello and welcome to my History 161 course, History of the United States from, first contact to 1877. I'm David Pafford and I'll be your instructor. I've taught History 161 for the University of New Mexico a couple of different times, but this will be the first time that I've taught it online. So I'll be learning from you in some ways, same way as you're learning from me. As you've noticed, I've put a few assignments for you to do during this orientation period, Monday through Wednesday evening. Mainly, I just want you to kind of get familiar with the system and how things are going to work. I'm going to have you do a little bit of an introduction yourself. You don't have to do a video like this one. You just post in the bulletin board, and that will help you get familiar with how that system works. Had you watch this video and a couple of other small tasks which you've seen you're supposed to do at this point. Wanted you to sign up for Gradebook, so that that's the W.W. Norton site that's associated with the publisher of the book, the textbook that I've assigned to you. One issue that a lot of folks have with online courses is that they kind of expect that perhaps the workload might be a little less than your standard brick and mortar class. That's not going to be true. You're going to end up with a lot of reading and some other different kinds of assignments, videos and things like that that ultimately are probably going to take you about 10 hours a week to accomplish. So please make sure you set aside that much time. We're not going to have any events that take place during this class that are going to require you to be at your computer at a particular time. The class is divided into modules that last 1 week apiece. You will have for the most part, you'll have every week from the beginning of Thursday until the end of the next Wednesday to get your work accomplished. We'll usually do 1 or 2 chapters in the book. I might have some primary source documents for you to take a look at and some videos to do. And you'll just about always either have an exam or a comment that you need to post, or a sort of an editorial comment that I'd like you to respond to, a question I'll have you respond to in the message boards. And that'll be the bulk of your grade. We'll have one assignment that's kind of a little research project that I'll ask you to do. You can pick from any number of topics off of your syllabus. I'm going to have you do a short writing project on that, about 5 pages. I'm going to want you to basically make an argument about why that person, place, thing, event is significant in American history. We're going to take a look at sources, tell you a little bit more about that later, but you're going to be required to use at least 3 sources, 1 primary and 1 secondary, and then the third you can choose from either of those. And I'll explain a little bit more about those sources and what they mean a little bit later. As for now, I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about myself and my background. I've given you some pretty specific things that I want you to talk about yourself for the class, just to give you an idea of where you're going to go. Your personal introductions don't have to be quite as detailed as mine. I went to school to be a high school history teacher, and I did that briefly. I taught high school history, government, geography, economics, pretty much the entire social studies department by myself, and I coached the varsity girls basketball team and the 6-man football team. They have 6-man football in Texas. Looks a little different probably from what you're used to. After that, I took a job as an officer in the Air Force. So I went to officer training school. Eventually I went to become a weapons systems officer in the B-1 bomber, and I spent 13 years in the Air Force, and that was my primary job as a B-1 weapons systems officer. I did some scheduling, did some personnel work. I additionally ran large force exercises that we did on simulators that I was in charge of building and overseeing myself. So had some experience there. I also have some ministry experience. I have a Master of Arts in Christian Ministry from Abilene Christian University that I got in 2006. I have a Master of Arts in History from the University of New Mexico that I received in 2010, and I'm just about half of a dissertation away from completing a PhD in history from the University of New Mexico. My specialties, they always require us as upper level graduate students to pick some specialty or an area of emphasis that we're going to focus on. I do U.S. military history and 19th century American West, so most of my research topics and my specialties center around those kinds of things. And so when we get to talking about Manifest Destiny or the Indian Wars or even the American Civil War or the war with Mexico, those are all topics that I've done a lot of research and study on, and so I'll be particularly adept at hopefully answering your questions on topics regarding those matters. I'm, like many of you, have a busy life. I'm farming this year about a little bit, close to 600 acres of farmland, and of course teaching this course as well. I have a big family, have a wife and 6 children who you may see in some of these videos from time to time helping me demonstrate or explain some topic. That's a little bit about who I am, where I came from, originally from the San Joaquin Valley. I went to high school in Firebaugh, California, and I kind of went to college in several different places, as I've alluded to earlier. But that's a little bit about me. Hope to get to know more about you as we post on these message boards, and I hope that you'll feel free to share comments and sort of editorial concerns as we go along and discuss American history. I'd like to hear what you think about American history, why it is or isn't important in your mind, with no retribution if you think it's unimportant. But I'd like to get your thoughts about that, and you'll see some direction about that as well in your instructions for how you're going to respond on the message boards this first week. Hope that you enjoy the course, and I look forward to visiting with you a little bit more later. Have a great day.